The twin suns of Viralis glowed faintly above the silver mountains, casting a pale light over the alien research camp. Inside one of the human-built domes, Dr. Eli Monroe stood alone, staring at the holographic screen. The data flickered. Another failed attempt to understand the alien reproductive sickness that was slowly destroying an entire species. Eli rubbed his tired eyes. He had been working for months without sleep, trying to decode the genetic imbalance that caused the alien women to lose the ability to give birth. To him, this was a medical mission, a humanitarian effort. But to the Alien Council, he was just a tool, a curious human who could be discarded once his purpose was done. That morning, the guards brought someone new into his lab. She was tall, graceful, with smooth violet skin and deep silver eyes. Her name was Lyra, chosen by her people for procreation study. Eli didn't know that in her culture, study meant something completely different from what he understood. As she entered the lab, Lyra's heartbeat raced. She had been told she was going to a human for an intimate test. In her mind, this human would perform the same cold, mechanical rituals her kind had known for centuries. Acts of breeding without emotion, done out of duty, not feeling. But the rumors said humans were different. Humans cared. She had never met one before. Eli turned, surprised to see her standing so still. "You must be Lyra," he said gently. His voice was calm, warm. "Don't worry, I won't hurt you. Please have a seat." Lyra's silver eyes widened. "He's asking me?" No command, no demand. Just a request. She nodded slowly and sat, unsure what was expected of her. Eli began scanning her vitals, using a handheld device that glowed with soft blue light. Lyra stiffened as it passed near her chest. "It's just a scanner," he explained. "It reads your internal health," she blinked, trying to understand. "You do not touch." He smiled faintly. "Only with permission." That word, permission, meant nothing in her world. In her colony, females were selected, examined, and paired without choice. No one ever asked what they wanted. But this human, this fragile-looking man, was different. He looked at her as if she mattered. As he worked, the silence between them grew strange. Not cold, but heavy with curiosity. Lyra's voice broke it first. "Human, why do you care if we live?" Eli paused. "Because life is beautiful," he said softly, "no matter the form it takes." His answer was simple, but it struck something deep inside her. Her people had stopped seeing life as beautiful long ago. To them, it was function, obligation. When the scan finished, Eli handed her a small piece of cloth. "It's chilly here. You can wrap this around yourself." Lyra stared at it, confused. No one had ever given her comfort before. "You offer warmth?" she asked quietly. He smiled again. "We humans do that a lot." Lyra looked down at the soft material in her hands. It was warm from his touch. She wrapped it around herself slowly, almost afraid. She felt something stir inside, an emotion she couldn't name. Hours passed as Eli continued taking notes and samples. He noticed how carefully she followed his every word, how her expressions changed with every explanation. He realized she wasn't just a subject. She was learning, observing him just as much as he was observing her. "Do you have questions?" he asked finally. She hesitated. "Humans, when they join, do they feel?" He raised an eyebrow, surprised.
"Feel, you mean emotionally?"
"Yes," she said. "We are told you mix pleasure with creation. Is it true?" Eli chuckled awkwardly, then nodded. "Sometimes, yes. But it's more than that. It's about trust. About caring for the one you're with. Not just for life to continue, but because you want to make each other happy." Lyra's mind spun. She couldn't imagine such a thing. Happiness and procreation. In her world, they had nothing to do with each other. When the session ended, Eli stood and said kindly, "You did well today. You can rest now." Lyra looked up, almost startled. "You do not claim me?" He frowned. "Claim you? No, of course not. You're free to go whenever you want." Those words broke something inside her. Free? No one had ever said that to her before. She stood slowly, unsure what to feel. As she walked toward the door, she turned back once more. Eli was already cleaning his instruments, humming softly, a human song she didn't recognize. The sound was gentle, soothing. It made her heart ache in a way she didn't understand. Outside, the alien guards waited, assuming the human had completed his task. They didn't notice the way Lyra held the blanket close to her chest, or the quiet tears glistening in her eyes. That night in her quarters, she couldn't sleep. Her people believed humans were crude, emotional beings driven by instinct. But that human, Dr. Eli Monroe, had treated her not as a tool, not as a test subject, but as a person. For the first time in her life, she questioned her world's rules. If intimacy could have kindness, if life could have warmth, maybe the humans weren't as primitive as everyone said. As the twin moons rose over Veralis, Lyra whispered to herself, "He did not touch me, yet I cannot forget his touch." And in that single thought, a quiet revolution began inside her heart. The next morning on Veralis began with soft golden light spilling through the research dome's windows. Dr. Eli Monroe stood by the data console, still reviewing Lyra's scan results. The human scientist had spent the night wondering about her confusion, her questions, and the way she'd held the blanket like it was something sacred. He couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't just another patient. There was something fragile yet strong in her, something that reached beyond science. Outside, Lyra walked across the cold metallic corridor, her mind lost in thought. Her people's voices echoed in her head. Humans are animals. They act from desire, not reason. But what she had seen in Eli was not desire. It was kindness. That made her curious, and curiosity was dangerous for someone like her. Still, she returned. When Eli saw her step through the door again, he smiled warmly. "You came back. I was told I may continue the observation," she said softly, though her real reason was different. She wanted to understand the strange warmth that humans carried, warmth she had never known. Eli nodded. "Good. Today we'll study emotional response. It might help me understand your species' stress levels." He offered her a seat, but this time she didn't hesitate. As he prepared his instruments, Lyra looked around the room. There were sketches taped to the wall, small animals, stars, and what looked like a human child's drawing. "You make pictures?" she asked curiously. Eli chuckled. Yeah, they remind me of home. Earth is full of color, sound, and feeling. Art helps us remember what we love. Love." She repeated the word slowly, like it was foreign. "We use that word only in songs, not in life." He paused, turning to her. "That's sad," he said quietly. "Love is what gives life its meaning," she frowned. "Meaning? Our meaning is duty. We serve the collective." Eli walked closer, his expression calm but serious. "Duty without feeling can't make people happy. You deserve more than orders, Lyra. You deserve choice." Her silver eyes met his. "Choice?" she whispered. "We are born to serve. Choice is myth." He didn't argue. Instead, he smiled again and offered her something small, a cup of warm herbal drink. The steam rose gently, carrying a sweet scent. "Try this," he said. "It's from Earth. Humans drink it when they want to relax." Lyra hesitated, then sipped. The warmth spread through her body, soft and calm. She felt her chest loosen, her heart beating slower. "It is pleasant," she said softly. "Exactly," Eli nodded. "That's what humans call comfort." Lyra looked down at the cup, amazed. "Comfort," she repeated. "We do not have that word." Eli studied her carefully. "Then maybe it's time you learn what it means." The next few days passed quietly but beautifully. Lyra began helping him with his research, sorting samples, recording data, and even learning human gestures. When Eli laughed at one of her misunderstandings, she didn't feel offended. She felt seen. One day he found her staring at a photograph on the wall. It showed a human man and woman holding hands beneath a sunset. "Who are they?" she asked. "My parents," Eli said softly. "They taught me that love is not about control. It's about standing beside someone, not above them." She tilted her head. "We stand in lines," she said. "Always below someone, never beside." Eli's heart ached at her words. "Then maybe your people forgot something important." She turned to him. "And you will remind us?" "I'll try," he said with a gentle smile. That night, after the day's work ended, Lyra sat near the dome's observation window. Outside, the alien moons painted the world silver blue. She watched Eli writing notes, his face calm and focused, the faint music of Earth playing from his small device. She didn't understand the song's words, but the melody made her chest tighten. When he noticed her watching, he asked, "Do you like it?" "It feels alive," she said. "Your music speaks like a heart," he nodded. "That's what it's made for." She hesitated before asking, "Do humans touch only when making life?" Eli looked at her thoughtfully. "No, sometimes we touch just to show care. A hand on the shoulder, a hug, and it means you're not alone." Her gaze dropped to her hands. "In my world, touch means ownership," she whispered. Eli's expression softened. He slowly extended his hand toward her, palm open. "Then let's change that. You can touch when you're ready." For a long moment, she stared at his hand. No force, no command, just quiet waiting. Then cautiously she reached out. Her fingers brushed against his palm. Warmth bloomed through her skin, spreading like sunlight. She pulled away quickly, startled by the rush of emotion. "It burns," she whispered. He smiled. "That's not pain, Lyra, that's connection." Her heart pounded. No one had ever made her feel like this. Not through orders, not through rituals, but through something simple, something real. She looked at him, realizing that his words were changing her more deeply than she expected. Later, when she returned to her quarters, she couldn't stop replaying the moment in her mind. The warmth of his touch, the way his eyes softened when he spoke, the strange flutter in her chest when he smiled. In her world, emotion was weakness, but tonight it felt like strength. As she gazed out at the stars, she whispered to herself, "Humans, they do not create only with bodies. They create with hearts." She didn't know it yet, but her journey had already begun. Not just to understand humans, but to rediscover what it meant to feel alive. Days passed, and the silent connection between Eli and Lyra grew stronger. The research dome that once echoed with cold mechanical sounds now felt alive. Laughter sometimes replaced the hum of machines, and gentle conversations filled the long nights. Lyra had started to ask questions that no alien dared to ask. Questions about feelings, choices, and love. And Eli, patient, kind, and endlessly curious, answered them all with warmth instead of judgment. But outside the safety of the dome, whispers began to spread. The alien guards noticed her staying longer after each experiment. Scientists of her species called her contaminated. The council declared that no alien female should spend unsupervised time with a human. "Humans manipulate with emotion," they warned. "They infect the mind." Yet Lyra didn't stop visiting. That evening, when the base lights dimmed for rest hours, she returned quietly, her hood drawn low. Eli was alone in the lab recording his notes. The soft hum of Earth's music played again in the background. Calm, human, peaceful. He looked up and smiled when he saw her. "You shouldn't be here this late," he said, though his voice held no anger. "I had to come," she whispered, closing the door behind her. "They told me I am forbidden from returning." Eli frowned. "Why?" "They think you changed me." Her voice trembled slightly. "And maybe they are right." He set down his tablet, walking closer. "Changed you how?" Lyra looked down, struggling for words. "Before you, I did not think. I only obeyed. I never wondered why we live without choice, without joy. But now," she pressed a hand to her chest, "now it feels heavy here. When I see others treated like tools, it hurts. You made me feel." Eli sighed softly. "Lyra, that's not wrong. Feeling is what makes life worth living. But my people fear it," she said bitterly. "To feel is to rebel. To rebel is to die." He studied her face and the flicker of fear in her eyes, the quiet strength in her voice. She wasn't just an assistant anymore. She was awakening. "Then learn here," Eli said finally. "No one can control what's inside your heart." She looked up at him, eyes shining like silver glass. "Teach me then," she said. "Teach me the human way of connection." The room grew still. Eli understood her words, but he also knew the danger. "Lyra, if they find out, they already hate me," she interrupted softly. "Let them hate truth, not silence." Eli hesitated. Then slowly he nodded. He guided her to sit beside him, showing her small things. How humans hold hands to comfort. How eye contact builds trust. How laughter can heal pain. Every gesture was simple, innocent yet powerful. When she laughed for the first time, in a real soft laugh, Eli felt something shift in the air. It was like the universe itself had taken a deep breath. "This feeling," she whispered, holding her chest. "It is light, that's joy," Eli said gently. "It's what humans share to remind each other they're not alone." She smiled faintly. "In my world, joy is forbidden. It distracts from purpose." "Then maybe your purpose is too small," Eli replied. That night, As the stars of Verilus blinked beyond the glass dome, Lyra learned what no alien teacher had ever dared to show her. That warmth could exist without command. That touch could mean comfort, not control. Eli never crossed the line of respect. Every word, every gesture was pure. Yet the bond they built carried more power than any physical act, and that was what frightened her people the most. The next morning, Lyra's absence from her assigned quarters was reported. The guards stormed into the research dome demanding answers. Eli stood firm, pretending ignorance. But when they left, he found a small message hidden under his datapad, written in shaky alien script. They watch me, but I am not afraid anymore. What you taught me, they cannot erase. Eli read the words again and again, his heart heavy with both pride and worry. He knew what was coming. The council wouldn't tolerate rebellion, not from a human, not from one of their own. 2 nights later, Lyra returned once more. This time her hands were trembling. They want to take me away, she said, voice breaking. They say I spoke too freely. They will erase my memories. Eli's face went pale. You can't go back, Lyra. You'll lose everything you've learned. She stepped closer, her voice shaking but firm. Then teach me one last thing before they come. Teach me what it means to love. Eli froze. He saw the desperation in her eyes. Not romantic desire, but the hunger to understand what her species had forgotten. Love, he said quietly, means you care for someone's heart more than your own. It means you protect even when it hurts. Lyra listened like a child hearing sunlight for the first time. Then you love me? She whispered. Eli looked at her with soft eyes. As a friend. As someone who deserves freedom. Tears formed in her silver eyes, reflecting the faint blue glow of the lab. Then I love you too, as the one who showed me life. Outside, alarms began to echo. The guards had found her. She looked toward the sound, then back at him. Do not fear, she said with a calm smile. They can cage my body, but not my heart. Eli reached out, holding her hand for the last time. Remember, Lyra, feeling is not weakness. It's what makes us alive. She nodded, tears falling. Then I am finally alive. The door burst open and the soldiers dragged her away. The last thing Eli saw was her face. Not afraid, not broken, but shining with a new light. The lesson was complete. The forbidden truth had already begun to spread. The halls of the alien compound echoed with angry voices. Lyra's name was being shouted like a curse. She had become the center of chaos, the symbol of something her people feared. Change. Dr. Eli Monroe stood by the observation window, his reflection pale in the cold blue light. Outside, armored guards surrounded the dome. The air buzzed with tension. The peaceful research mission had turned into a battlefield of beliefs. 2 days had passed since Lyra was taken. He hadn't seen her since the night they dragged her away. Every minute felt longer than an hour. He didn't know where they'd taken her, or if she was even alive. Then came the order from the council. All human research is to be shut down immediately. The human will be escorted off-world. No further contact with native subjects is permitted. Eli stared at the message, his fists trembling. He couldn't accept it. Not after everything. Not after seeing what humanity's compassion had awakened in her. That evening, as the dome dimmed to night mode, the door hissed open. A figure stumbled inside, weak, bruised, and barely able to stand. Lyra, Eli whispered. She was covered in dust, her robes torn, her face marked by faint silver scars where restraint bands had burned her skin. But her eyes, her bright silver eyes, were alive, fierce. They locked me away, she whispered hoarsely. They said I was broken, but I escaped. Eli rushed forward and helped her sit. You shouldn't have come here, they'll be looking for you. I had to, she said, gripping his arm. They are going to destroy your work, everything. They say your kind spreads corruption through emotion. Eli clenched his jaw. If caring is corruption, then maybe the galaxy needs more of it. Lyra gave a weak smile. That is why I came. You told me feeling is not weakness. I will show them that truth even if they hate me for it. Eli stared at her, torn between fear and admiration. You could die, Lyra. Then let my death have meaning, she said. Before he could answer, the alarms blared. The council soldiers had found her trail. Red lights flashed across the dome. The building's metallic voice warned, containment breach detected. Security teams en route. Eli grabbed his tablet and smashed the emergency lockdown button. Metal shutters sealed the doors. We don't have much time. If they take you again, they'll erase your mind for good. Lyra stood shakily. Then I will speak now. Here, before they silence me. Eli blinked. Speak to who? She turned to the lab's main holotransmitter, the one connected to the planetary communication grid. To all who will listen. Before he could stop her, she activated it. A glowing image of her face appeared across multiple frequencies, broadcasting through the colony network. The feed showed the bruised alien woman standing beside a human scientist, her voice trembling but steady. To my people, she began, you call humans primitive. You say they live through emotion. You say they are dangerous. You are right, they are dangerous. To the lies we live under. Gasps and warnings echoed across the colony's channels. She continued, stronger now. You told us that life is duty, not choice. That feeling brings chaos. But I have learned that without feeling, we are not alive at all. This human, she pointed gently to Eli, did not use me. He freed me, not with power but with kindness. Eli stood silently beside her, his heart pounding. He showed me that care can heal more than control. That love is not a weakness, it is the highest form of strength. Security forces were already outside, pounding on the sealed door. Eli shouted over the noise, "They're coming, Lyra!" But she didn't stop. Her voice grew louder, echoing through every screen and communicator in the colony. My people, I do not ask you to betray your world. I ask you to feel it again, to remember the warmth of family, the laughter of friends, the joy of choice. Humans did not teach us corruption. They reminded us of our hearts. The soldiers broke through the outer gate. The sound of boots thundered closer. Eli reached for her arm. We have to go. But Lyra shook her head. If I run now, my words will die. Let them see what love looks like when it stands unafraid. The door exploded open. Armed guards flooded in, weapons raised. Eli stepped in front of her instinctively, shouting, "Don't shoot! She's unarmed." One guard barked, "Step aside, human! She has violated the council's decree." But Lyra's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. No decree can silence truth. The guards hesitated. For a brief, breathless moment, no one moved. The image of her face was still being broadcast. The bruised alien woman standing beside a human, defying her rulers with nothing but words. And in that moment, something changed. Across the colony, thousands of aliens watched the transmission. Some wept, some turned off their screens. But many paused. One by one, whispers began to rise. She speaks truth. Then another. Maybe humans are not the monsters. Before the soldiers could act, the transmission cut out. The power grid overloaded. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Lyra turned to Eli, smiling through her tears. It is done. They have heard. He pulled her close, shielding her as smoke filled the lab. Whatever happens next, he said, voice shaking. You changed everything. Outside, the world was already stirring. Protests were breaking out. The council's lies were cracking, and in the middle of that storm, one human and one alien stood together, united by something that neither science nor politics could measure. Not duty. Not fear, but something far greater. Love born of understanding. The dome lay silent after the chaos. Smoke drifted lazily in the cold blue air. The alarms had stopped, the soldiers had gone, and the world outside had changed forever. Dr. Eli Monroe and Lyra sat side by side amid the wreckage, bruised, tired, but alive. The transmission had ended only minutes ago, but its echo still rippled across the planet. Every alien who had seen it was questioning something they had once believed unbreakable. Lyra's silver eyes reflected the flickering emergency lights. They will come again, she said softly. The council will not forgive this. Eli nodded, wrapping a strip of bandage around her burned wrist. I know, he said, but this time they'll have to face the truth first. She smiled weakly. You speak like a soldier. I'm just a man, he replied, tightening the bandage carefully. But some fights are worth more than survival. For a while they sat in silence. The world outside buzzed with the noise of rebellion. Faint chants, sparks of protest, voices demanding answers. The broadcast had worked. Lyra turned toward him. You could leave, she said suddenly. Your ship is still docked. You can escape before they return. And leave you here? Eli shook his head. No, I won't, she frowned, confused. Why? You owe me nothing. He looked at her with a calm, steady gaze. You're wrong. I owe you hope. You reminded me why I came here, and to help, not to run. Her lips trembled, and for a moment she had no words. All her life, people had claimed her body, her duty, her mind, but never her heart. Eli was the first to see her as more than a tool. Then we both stay, she whispered. Together. Hours passed. They packed what little they could. Food rations, water capsules, portable solar cells. When the night fell, they slipped quietly through the ruined corridors, heading toward the docking bay. Outside, the skies of Veralis shimmered with lightning. The air smelled of rebellion. Smoke rose from the city spires. The people were rising, their hearts awakened by the message of one woman and one human. As they reached the edge of the compound, Lyra stopped. Ahead lay a vast stretch of silver sand, glowing faintly under twin moons. In the distance stood an abandoned observatory once used by alien astronomers. That is where we go, she said, pointing. No one will look for us there. Eli smiled faintly. A perfect place to start over. The journey took them hours. They walked through cold wind and starlit silence. Sometimes she stumbled, and he offered his hand. She always hesitated for a moment before taking it, still not used to such gentle strength. By dawn, they reached the observatory. Its dome was cracked, but the stars still glimmered through the broken glass. They stepped inside. The space smelled of dust and forgotten dreams. Old telescopes lay scattered like bones. But to Eli it felt peaceful. This will do, he said. We can hide here, at least for a while. Lyra looked around, then placed her hand on the cold metal wall. I used to come here as a child, she said softly. I watched the stars and wondered what it would be like to feel free. I never thought I would find that freedom beside a human. Eli smiled quietly. Freedom isn't a place, Lyra, it's a choice. She turned to him. And what have you chosen? He met her gaze. To stay. With you. The silence between them deepened, not empty but full of unspoken feeling. She stepped closer, studying his face. You risk your world for mine, she said. You risk your life for someone not even your kind. He shook his head. Kindness doesn't need a species. Her eyes softened. For a long time they simply looked at each other, two souls from different worlds bound by something greater than words. Days turned into weeks. Together they repaired the observatory. Lyra learned how to grow earth plants in alien soil. Eli taught her how to read human stories. They laughed often, though sometimes she cried without knowing why. Each night they would climb to the roof and watch the twin moons rise. Eli would point at constellations, telling her tales of human love and courage, and she would listen, resting her head against his shoulder, her silver eyes reflecting the stars. One evening she spoke softly. Do humans ever tire of feeling? He chuckled. Sometimes it hurts, but we never stop. Because even pain means we're alive. She nodded slowly, touching her heart. Then I want to live even if it hurts. Eli took her hand. That's the bravest choice anyone can make. Their hands stayed together, fingers entwined as the wind whispered through the broken glass above. Weeks later, a faint message arrived through the comm beacon, a broken signal from the colony network. Council divisions reported, citizens demand reform. Procreation law suspended pending review. Lyra stared at the flickering screen, tears welling in her eyes. They're listening, she whispered. They're changing. Eli smiled, his voice low and proud. Your words did this. No, she said, shaking her head gently. Our hearts did. That night, as rain fell softly against the dome, Lyra stood by the window watching the storm. When I first met you, she said, I thought you were dangerous. No, I know you were necessary. Eli approached her quietly. And you, Lyra, reminded me that science without compassion means nothing. She turned, smiling through tears. Then we saved each other. Outside, the first dawn of a new Veralis began to rise. The twin suns painted the sky gold and violet, like the merging of two worlds that were never meant to meet, but did. Lyra took a deep breath and whispered, From procreation. To life, Eli answered softly. From fear, to love. They stood together as light filled the observatory, hand in hand, two beings who had chosen not just survival, but connection. And somewhere beyond the stars, the universe listened and smiled. The storm had passed. Morning light spilled through the cracked glass of the old observatory, bathing everything in gold. For weeks, Lyra and Eli had lived quietly there, hidden from the Council's patrols. The air was calm, but beneath the calm, the planet of Veralis was changing. It started with whispers, then with songs, and then with rebellion. Across the alien cities, murals began to appear on the walls, paintings of a silver-eyed woman standing beside a human man. Below each painting were words written in both languages: feel, choose, live. The Council tried to erase them, but each time they did, new ones appeared overnight. People began speaking more freely, gathering in secret to share forbidden emotions. They laughed, they cried, they remembered what it meant to feel alive. In the market squares, alien couples started walking hand in hand, something once seen as disgraceful. Children played music in the streets, humans and aliens trading stories of compassion and unity. And though the Council declared these acts corruption, their power was slipping away. From their observatory hideout, Eli and Lyra watched the revolution unfold on the news stream. Lyra sat quietly beside the old transmitter, her eyes full of both pride and fear. "They listen," she whispered. "My people. They truly listen." Eli smiled faintly. "You gave them what no one else could, permission to feel." She turned to him. "No, Eli. You gave it to me first." For a moment, silence filled the room, warm and steady. Outside, the wind howled like a reminder that peace was never permanent. Then the broadcast changed. A stern alien face appeared, the Grand Chancellor of Veralis. His voice echoed through the speakers, cold and sharp. "Citizens of Veralis, this infection of human emotion must end. The woman called Lyra is a traitor. Her words have led to chaos. Anyone found following her example will be punished." Lyra's face paled. "They still hunt us." Eli stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Let them. The truth can't be buried forever." But Lyra shook her head. "If they find you, they will kill you. The Council cannot allow a human to live as a symbol of defiance." "I didn't do this alone," he said softly. "You're the symbol. You're the hope." Lyra looked at him, voice trembling. "Hope is fragile, Eli. It breaks under fear." He smiled. "Then we'll keep fixing it together." That night, the observatory filled with visitors. One by one, aliens arrived under the cover of darkness. Workers, teachers, soldiers, even a council aide. They had found them through whispers and rumors. When Eli opened the door, the group stood silently in the moonlight. Their faces were filled with nervousness, and something brighter and courage. A tall alien stepped forward. "We've come to see if the human and the woman still live." Lyra nodded. "We live," she said simply. The alien's eyes softened. "Then there is still hope. The people wait for your voice again." Lyra's breath caught. "You want me to speak?" "Not just speak," another said. "Lead." Eli glanced at her. He could see the fear in her eyes and then the fire. "This is your choice," he said quietly. "No one can decide it for you." Lyra turned toward the crowd, her heart pounding. "If I speak again," she said slowly, "the Council will come for all of you." The first alien nodded. "They already do. But we are not afraid anymore." Lyra looked up at the stars through the broken dome. The same stars she used to watch as a child. The same stars that had witnessed her awakening. She took a deep breath and said, "Then we will speak. Together." The next day, from the hidden observatory, a new transmission was sent, one more powerful than before. Lyra appeared before the entire planet once again, this time not as a victim, but as a leader. "My name is Lyra of Veralis," she said clearly. "I once believed that emotion was weakness, that love was corruption, that obedience was safety, but I was wrong." The image zoomed out, showing Eli beside her, calm and strong. "This human did not conquer me.
He freed me."
He showed me that connection makes us stronger, not weaker. You fear that love will divide us, but it will unite us more deeply than rules ever could." All across the planet, millions watched. In cities and farms, in ships and stations, the people of Veralis listened. "The Council says we are pure without feeling," she continued. "But purity without heart is emptiness, and I will no longer live empty." The transmission spread like fire. Across the world, people began tearing down Council banners. Soldiers refused to fight. Families reunited. The world was changing in a way no weapon could stop. When the broadcast ended, Lyra slumped into the chair, exhausted. Eli caught her before she fell. "You did it," he whispered. "They'll remember this day." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Do you think they'll forgive?" Eli smiled sadly. Maybe not today, but one day they'll thank you for it. Suddenly, the observatory lights flickered. A warning. Drones were approaching. The council had traced their signal. Lyra looked at Eli with fear and determination. Go, save yourself. I'll hold them off. Eli shook his head firmly. No, Lyra, I didn't teach you to stand alone. Outside, bright searchlights pierced the darkness. Engines roared closer. But inside, in that small dome of defiance, two hearts stood together. Calm, unbroken. Lyra reached for his hand. If we die, she said softly, then we die living. Eli squeezed her hand. Then we've already won. And as the night filled with the sound of approaching soldiers, the people of Veralis rose in every city. From every street, every rooftop came a single cry, a cry that shook the stars themselves. Feel, choose, live. The uprising had begun. And in the heart of that revolution stood a human and an alien, proof that compassion could start a war greater than any army, a war for the soul of an entire world. The sky of Veralis burned with light. It wasn't the light of war, but of awakening. From the cities to the frozen valleys, millions of alien hearts beat as one, in fear, in hope, in feeling. The uprising had begun days ago, and the world no longer obeyed silence. The council's banners fell, replaced by the symbol of two hands, one human, one alien, joined under the twin suns. Inside the old observatory, Eli and Lyra watched the chaos unfold through the cracked glass. Their transmission had reached every corner of the planet. The words feel, choose, live had become a cry of freedom, but victory came with danger. A massive shadow passed across the sky, the council carrier descending like a storm. Its engines howled as thunder rolled across the plains. Soldiers marched beneath it, their armor glinting under the suns. They're coming, Eli said quietly. Lyra stood at the window, her expression calm. I know. They'll kill us both, he warned. They have to, or they'll lose control forever. She turned to him slowly, her silver eyes glowing with a strange peace. Then let them come. I have one more thing to say. Eli stepped forward. Lyra, you don't need to. Yes, she interrupted softly. I do, not for me. For them. She placed her hand gently against his cheek. You taught me what it means to feel. But now I must teach my people what it means to forgive. Before he could answer, the old transmitter hummed to life. Lyra's fingers flew over the console. One last message, she whispered. Eli could only watch as her image appeared once again across every screen, every comm, every street. People of Veralis, she began, her voice clear and steady. You fight for freedom. You fight for the right to feel. But remember, freedom without compassion will only become another cage. Across the planet, the crowds grew silent. Even the soldiers paused, their weapons lowering slightly as her voice reached them. I was one of you. I was taught that emotion was weakness, that duty was everything. But now I see that emotion is what makes us strong. It is not our logic that saves us, and it is our heart. Her image flickered as the carrier's jammers tried to cut the signal, but Eli boosted the frequency manually. Keep talking, he said. They're listening. Do not hate those who oppressed you, she continued. They are blind, not evil. We will not rise by replacing chains with new ones. We must rise by choosing kindness, as this human showed me. Eli felt a lump in his throat. Her words weren't rebellion, they were redemption. To the council, she said, voice trembling now. You cannot stop what has begun. You can destroy me, but you cannot destroy love. It will grow in every heart you tried to silence. And then, as the signal wavered, she smiled. That soft, radiant smile that Eli would never forget. Because one human taught one alien to feel, and that was enough to change a world. The feed went dark. Outside, the carrier's engines roared louder. The ground shook as soldiers surrounded the observatory. Floodlights cut through the night, locking onto the cracked dome. Eli turned to her. They're here, Lyra nodded. Then we faced them together. The doors burst open. Armed soldiers flooded in, weapons raised. Behind them walked the Grand Chancellor himself, tall, draped in golden robes, his expression carved from stone. He looked at Lyra with cold fury. You have poisoned our world. Lyra stood tall. No, I cured it. You broke our order. The Chancellor shouted. She lifted her chin. Order without compassion is death. The Chancellor's voice rose. You stand with a creature that defies all logic, all purity. Eli stepped forward, unarmed but fearless. Then maybe purity isn't what you think it is. The Chancellor glared at him. You should not exist here, human. Eli smiled faintly. And yet here I am. A tense silence fell. The soldiers waited for an order. The Chancellor raised his hand, but before he could speak, one of the younger soldiers dropped his weapon. Then another. Then another. The Chancellor turned, furious. What are you doing? One soldier stepped forward, trembling. I heard her words, sir. She is right. We are not machines. More soldiers joined him, lowering their weapons. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, They understand. The Chancellor shouted, Enough! But no one listened. His command echoed into emptiness. The power he once held had vanished, stolen by the truth. In that moment, the world changed. Not through war, but through compassion. Lyra took a step forward. The age of silence is over, she said. We will build a new Viralis, one where logic and emotion walk together. The Chancellor looked around, defeated. He lowered his head and said nothing. Outside, the suns rose higher, painting the battlefield gold. The soldiers dropped to one knee, not in surrender but in respect. Eli turned to Lyra. You did it. She shook her head gently. We did it. He smiled, and for the first time she smiled fully, bright and alive. Later, as peace spread across the cities, the council disbanded itself. A new assembly was formed, half human, half alien, dedicated to unity, emotion, and knowledge. Lyra became its first ambassador. When she stood before the new assembly for the first time, she spoke simple words, from procreation to pleasure, from survival to meaning. We have learned that life is more than continuation. It is connection. And one human heart showed us the way. The chamber erupted in applause. Eli, standing quietly at the back, felt a warmth fill his chest. He didn't need medals or titles. Seeing her shine was enough. That night, under the twin moons, Lyra found him by the old observatory once more. The ruins still stood, bathed in soft silver light. Will you stay? She asked. Eli smiled. For as long as you need me. She reached for his hand, not trembling, not unsure, and held it firmly. Then forever might not be long enough. They stood there in silence as the stars burned above, a human and an alien, proof that love could cross not just worlds, but ways of life. And somewhere beyond, the universe whispered their story, carrying it across galaxies as a legend not of conquest, but of compassion. Because in the end, it wasn't power that changed Viralis. It was a touch, a choice, a heartbeat shared between two souls, and the courage to feel.